My purpose in this life is to make the world a better for people, that allows young people to feel a little less broken, that gives them hope. I know that I have to be the fittest and healthiest person that I know to get up every day and demand that the people who are surrounding them accept that calling. Mm-hmm. So how do I do it? I understand why I'm here. And I posted on Instagram the difference between purpose and passion. And passion is an emotion. So people are always saying, follow your passion. Mm-hmm. That's fleeting. That you only feel like that for that moment.
Absolutely.
But your purpose is something that you should walk in daily. Mm-hmm. It's a commitment that from the day that you were born until you leave, if you find your purpose, everything that you do should be aligned to it. It should be a rhythm that's connected to that. So I found my purpose. And so I don't even think about it. I'm selfless. And I recharge through reciprocity, right? Mm-hmm. And the exchange comes in when you watch young people and they're consistently thanking you for what you've done for them. Then I know that I'm walking in my purpose, and that gives me the energy to keep going.
Because that's real. It's a feeling that you can't describe, you know. That
because Rachel talk about it all the time of what you gave to her, how you most definitely influenced her life outside of her own biological, father. So
you're the reason I got into education. Right. You understand what I'm saying? You just told me, like, I see what you said about your students today. You're one of the reasons why that happened. You know what I'm saying? So it's true. It's real.
I remember at my wedding reception, me coming over on Indiana with the Dixon family, like you are with the Huxtables. But
y'all like the ghetto Huxtables.
Yeah, y'all the Huxtables. But here's the reality of it. Even in what people would consider to be the most perfect family, there's some gaps.
For sure.
And again, because I believe that things are cosmic, right? That there's a synergy between people.
Absolutely.
We connected.
Absolutely.
And there was something that you needed that I was able to provide in the most platonic way possible. And that exchange allowed me to, I didn't miss work. I don't know if you all remember.
You did not.
And it's funny because teachers used to complain about their classrooms being oversized. Like, every last one of my classes was capped. I couldn't take another student. Everybody wanted my class. People came to school just to skip in my classroom.
You had people who wasn't even on your enrollment to trying to come in, like, can I just come in, Mr. Coleman? I remember people like begging at the door, like, please, can we come in there?
Yeah. But it was the gift of grace.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm in there every day and I'm making people feel that they're loved. And so everybody wanted it, from the most thugged out dudes in the building to the shyest, most bullied young person. They felt like I created a safe space for them.
It was definitely a safe haven, for sure. I mean,
without back them up off you, like, hey, that's enough. That's enough.
Right.
I gotta let you.
He gonna let us roll.
He will let
you. He would get some good laughs, saying like, oh, but he like, okay, that's too much.
Do you remember on the first day of school, I didn't teach, right? Because I hadn't introduced myself to you all. So I sat in the middle of the classroom on the desk, and I'm like, listen, I'm from West Grand Boulevard and Warren. I'm from Vinewood. Your story is my story, whether you know it or not. Fruit Loop walked into the room, and I'll never forget. And I think he said,
Fruit, what up, Fruit Loop?
Right. Aaron Barnes.
Yes, what up, Fruit?
He walked in, and I had on some Kenneth Coles, maybe a sweater, some slacks, and because people judge you aesthetically, right?
Right.
But I tell people, I just look like this. Like, do you understand where I'm from?
Right.
And he walked in, and he was like, you bout it? And I was like, I'm bout it. And from that moment,
become our class.
And from that point on, I remember he went crazy, but it was just a natural, it was a connection. So I believe that the universe pushes you on this path.
For sure.
I didn't even want to go to Central initially because, like, I'm from West Grand Boulevard and Warren. That's a totally different neighborhood.
Right, not even the same.
Right. Listen, the influence of YBI and NFL and all the things that were going on, they were like, Central need a teacher. I'm like, man, I'm not going to Central.
Yeah, I feel you.
For about 30 seconds, and then I was like, listen, I need a job.
Yes.
But when I got over there, the spirit of the young people was just I hated to leave Central.
We hated when you left.
Yeah, but it's the politics of Detroit public schools. So if I don't leave, I'm going to get bumped because I was low seniority.
Yep.
And so I had to make a decision that was extremely difficult, but necessary. But it was, Central gave me the confidence that I can do anything.
If you can survive at Central, you will survive anywhere.
Trust and believe that.
I never wrote a referral. You all never heard me yell.
Never.
I was never disrespected. I used to
Nobody ever
slam
tried
people, out in the hallway.
Whoop me. You had that little like, get over Central.
But and you would think people would have been. It's funny. My peers were envious. I think because they're like, how is this man able to do this with these people? But it was the best experience for a young teacher because without confidence, nothing is possible. And if you want to kill a young person, kill their ability to dream or believe.
Yes.
Tell the truth.
Yes.
So you send me into a place, I'm a baby, I'm 25.
Yes.
So I'm just a couple years out of college. That's not an environment. That's an environment that you're either, as they would say, you're either a gator or gator bait. And so I walked in there and once I had success with that population, I'm like, man, I can go anywhere.
I believe it.
I mean, it's evident. It's right sitting before us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. This is so good.
This is so good. So, how do your daughters feel about
sharing you with everybody?
Yeah. How do you balance fatherhood?
So that's a great question, right? So you all were my first children. And I always said that being a teacher made me a better father and being a father made me a better teacher. So I had children young, biologically and then literally like you all are my children. So because I understood that this was my purpose, I had to create conditions that allowed both groups to feel fully supported. So my daughters grew up in school. And so I would get off work. My mother still lived on Vinewood. I would go pick my kids up and take them right back to school. So they're in car seats. So these were the kids who grew up with all of the students taking care of them. But because I'm so honest, I would tell them that this isn't the real world. I don't want you to think everybody loves you because they don't. Your father is the principal. Your father is this. And so there's a benefit to them having a relationship with you. So don't become jaded by this. Some people have genuine love and concern for you, but that's not everybody.
That's real.
But I balanced it just simply by allowing them to come and partake. Because think about this. Before I had biological kids, I'm at every basketball game, football game, baseball, battle of the bands, because I recognize that I'm serving a community that does not have a ton of parental support.
Right.
So I needed to be present because there weren't a lot of people there.
So commendable.
Yep. So my kids grew up in that environment. So they're small kids and they're at the games and everybody's taking them and they're at the concession stand. So the balance was simple because I blurred the lines.
Yep.
Neither of those situations were separate.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty nice.
That was smart. I think that was a really good thing that you did because your daughters are very well rounded. Yeah. They are.
Yep. And they went to River Rouge.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, why did they go to River Rouge? And I said that if I couldn't create a school district that was good enough for my own children.
Come on now.
Then I don't deserve the opportunity to serve here.
I mean,
that's real because you will see that all the time. You'll see teachers teaching in the inner city and then their kids go to a school in a private school or in the suburbs. So it's like,
I know that for sure. I went to a school and my son was the only student there. All of the administrators, everybody in leadership kids went to every other school, but then I understood why. But that's commendable that you were in a leadership position and you made sure that your children, not only your biological children, but the children you serve, had quality education.
Absolutely, because it impugns, I feel like as the superintendent or principal, it impugns my credibility. So I'm going to tell you to bring your children here, but mine are going to be somewhere else.
That's the truth. Because I told them, I said, I can't keep my son here if y'all want me to sell this. I'm just being honest because it was not transcending what I was telling the parents.
Gotta keep it real.
And it was perfect for them because there was adversity in that environment. So here's the irony, right? People think that schools that are in higher income communities are better because of test scores. And the only thing the test scores measure is the income achievement gap. You will never see a school in a high income, affluent community ranked low on the state's top to bottom ranking. All of the schools in that top to bottom ranking are coming from poorer communities. Mm-hmm. But the teachers in those communities are better because they have to learn how to attack gaps and deficits, mm-hmm. and they have to learn interventions that the other people don't. Mm-hmm. So my daughters and my students have the benefit of incredible teachers. My daughters had to deal with some adversity socially, mm-hmm. that prepared them for when they got to college, because I'm not going to be there to protect you.
Yes. I love it.
And I watched kids who came from middle class, higher income communities when they got to college.
Be messed up.
And they ran game on them. Yeah. Yep.
Or naive.
Exactly.
I remember that you told us that story, like it's gonna be some guys and they're gonna be this and you're gonna be fresh meat and they're gonna have this and it's gonna be this way. You was just
and I said stay away from these frat boys, which I'm one. Shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah, okay. Because he knew. He was like, you broke it down. I was just like, I don't want to hear all this, but it was real.
That was real.
It was needed. Thank you. I mean, it was real.
I went
to
school no lie. Like, what you gonna say? Mm-hmm. You already told me about you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Hit that with that Sealy, like back up.
For sure. Right. It was real. That's pretty dope. Well, since we're talking about schools and we didn't even want to do too much education, but since COVID, mm-hmm. what do you think about the status of our education system right now? So
that's it's a complex question, right? Mm-hmm. Because what would you have said about our educational system pre-COVID?
Depending on where you
exactly.
district and where it was.
Yeah. So what did COVID do? All COVID did was created more adverse and traumatic environments for our young people, because the mental health of our young people has changed dramatically. But I don't want to make it exclusively about young people, mm-hmm. because adults struggled, with that space. Mm-hmm. So these young kids come back now, many of them, so people be like, oh, they can just go home and work virtually. Every home is not designed to support a student. Have you all looked at the curriculum? Mm-hmm. It's advanced. Mm-hmm. So many of the parents can't even help young people.
Some of the parents can't even read and comprehend a lot of the stuff.
But even if you can, the complex nature of the work. Mm-hmm. I'm an English teacher by trade. Mm-hmm. So you're going to ask me to teach advanced mathematics, calculus? Right. Elementary school students have algebraic equations and expressions.
They do.
So I'm going to send you home and believe that you're going to have the content knowledge to provide them high quality instruction. And that's not what you do for a living. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see students struggle. Higher income communities can afford more tutors. Yep. They can get some additional support.
I've seen that.
But for our lower income, we're on survival mode. Many of our kids are school dependent. They need to be there for the mental health support.
The food.
Yeah, the food. Mm-hmm. But they need somebody in there to breathe life into them, to let them know that this is not as bad as that home environment.
It's a haven for a lot of them.
Because it was for us.
Yeah.
We often tell the kids now, like, on a snow day, we were still trucking through the snow to get to school because it was just that important to us.
Yeah.
But so here's something to consider. Those were neighborhood schools too then, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
no, they're not. Mm-hmm. And, that's a much different conversation. Mm-hmm. But so the absence of neighborhood schools now require us to rely so heavily on transportation.
Yeah.
So you're going to ask me to ask a kid to walk, because the city of Detroit does not plow its streets.
Not at all. Not to go. Like, wait 10 days after a snowstorm because you're getting stuck.
So I'm going to ask that kid to walk past those abandoned homes, through snow, deal with those 5,000 stray dogs that are in the city.
Them dogs running, man. We used to be hopping up on them cars.
Yeah, and then get on a bus with a driver that may not necessarily be super experienced in driving in those conditions. So it forces you at times, just for safety.
Stay home.
Yep, to say that we're going to cancel
school. Look at all of what you said that you have to endure before you even get to school.
Absolutely.
That's a lot. I seen it, and that's why I asked, because you see, parents who have more money, they, you know, put their kids in Kumar and Sylvan, the ones that are falling behind, but then you see the ones that are parents are in survival mode. You just like, wow.
Yeah. And in every situation, that parent, caregiver, because we had grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors raising kids. Everybody's doing their absolute best.
They are.
So I'm not one to empathy allows me to understand, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not one to cast aspersions. I have no idea how you feel in that situation. I can only tell you that healthy people don't make the decisions that you make. So I know something is wrong. So let me help this baby a little more. We're going to have to pour more into them. We do mental health assessments for all of our students.
That is amazing. Come on now.
That is spectacular.
For all of them.
That is amazing.
That is spectacular.
Yeah. So we use a lot of ESSER funds, which is
not ever
the CARES Act, to provide them with intensive support and then set up counseling. Because in our community, we don't grow up addressing mental health, right?
Not at all.
We go to church and we're going to leave it on the altar, we're going to pray. But that prayer does not do anything, doesn't give me any tools to use that when I'm placed in an environment that triggers the trauma, because the trauma is stored in my body.
Yes.
And I react. And we say, that kid is bad, or he needs a butt whooping.
Come on now.
No, he needs a therapist.
Or kick him out of school.
Yeah, he needs somebody to help him unpack those emotions so that when he's in that situation, he's not triggered.
Yes.
So the pandemic has only heightened that, right? So if it was bad before, it's terrible now.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Man, speaking of mental health, mental health in the African American community, what would you share? Because we have had several people on our show, and every time we talk about like mental health in the Black community, not only in the Black community, but for Black men, it's still that shy away.
It's
like
so taboo.
It's like,
it's like no.
with you, because you expressed earlier that you meditate.
Yeah.
Have you went through counseling? I mean, what's your take on mental health as a Black man?
So I think that all of us are broken, right? Some just are able to camouflage it better than others. So even when you talk about healing, you don't heal and then you're fine, because something else is going to happen.
Come on now.
It's a never-ending process.
Exactly.
It's never ending.
So how do we help develop habits that allow us to triage ourselves, to be self-aware, to say that, okay, here's how I'm going to go release this. I read a lot, and that reading challenges my bias and beliefs, right? Because most of us are stuck in our ways because we don't have new information that challenges the way we saw it. And we're not talking to people who are going to challenge us. Because you look at your network, and you're pretty much around people who think the same way that you do. Those are those common interests that attract you. Most of us are around people who are unhealthy. So that means that our dialogue and exchanges are unhealthy. So for us, the moment something happens, right, we like, oh, you got to check that MF. Nah, man, suspend your ego for a second, right?
What?
So at the end of the day, the last thing I'm going to do is be punked, but I'm not triggered. So I'm not the enemy.
Right.
Now, this ain't a problem you're going to necessarily want, but I don't want it either.
Keep it real.
So let's have a different conversation.
Yes.
And so but we're not raised to be vulnerable, because we all are coming from environments that require us, we're in survival mode. And so because we're not raised to be vulnerable, you can't even address that inner child that has these needs that went unmet.
That's very true.
Yes. Speaking of that, you speak a lot of your inner child.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us, are you willing to share about the inner child work that you've had to, work you've had to do on the inner child in you?
Yeah. So I think that because of the way in which I articulate words, the way I carry myself, my intelligence, people will be like, oh, this guy has it all together. And relatively speaking, I'm better than most, but it didn't mean that I had it all together. So a lot of my relationship challenges in life all stem from things that occurred to me during my childhood. And predominantly at the consequence of my father not being present. So my father's not there. He's telling me he's going to come get me. doesn't come. So I can remember sitting on the couch with my coat on, crying, waiting on looking at every car as it rolled down the street like, he's here. And it was devastating because you develop how you interact with the world between those exchanges with your parents.
Yes.
So what happens when those parents disappoint you early? You grow up now not able to trust people. So that inner child now wants love, but he doesn't know how to receive it. She wants love. She's looking for it in a different form because she didn't get it when she was younger. So my inner child felt like, so I'm really big on, so my personal values are family, reciprocity, empathy, accountability, and credibility. Credibility builds trust. My father, like, I am impeccable with my word. But it's because my father wasn't. But it's really trauma because now I'm hypersensitive. So if you lie to me, and here's the sad part, everybody lies.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. We'll justify why we lie. Or I didn't really want to tell them because I didn't want to hurt them. Or you grow up believing it's a Santa Claus.
Lies, tooth fairy.
Yeah, tooth fairy. So everybody lies. Because of the lies that my father told me, any time a woman told me a lie, I'm like, she's a liar. I'm going in on her. But I'm not really mad at her because trauma is physiological, right? It's stored in the body.
Yes.
So when it's triggered, it takes you right back to that place. So every time I'm going in on a woman about lying, and I'm never disrespectful, but I'm like, you're a liar. It wasn't that deep. And so, but this is something that I didn't learn until I was 49.
Come on, tell the
And
truth.
he just said,
I just turned 50.
come on.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, because
truth.
I'm thinking that every time a woman lied, I couldn't trust her. It wasn't that I couldn't trust her. My inner child didn't allow me to trust people because I couldn't trust my father.
Yes,
That's
that's
the
a fact.
Right.
That's a fact.
The work, I mean, you're speaking our language right now because it's something that LaTarsha and I, on our healing journey, we are dealing with those. I'm 6-year-old Rachel sometimes. I'm 16-year-old Rachel sometimes. I'm 4, in those places where the trauma is there in my body, and it's just like, shoot. A lot of it comes from your childhood, your parents.
Most of it does.
Yeah.
Most of it. But I do want to add this because I think this is important. What allowed me to heal. So there are not a lot of parts of me that needed healing because I'm constantly working on those things. But that was huge.
Yes.
The part in me that allowed me to heal was that I thought about my father's childhood, and I found out some things that I didn't know. My mother has been an old woman the entire time I've known her. Now, she had me at 31. So I'm in kindergarten. My mother is 36. I'm looking at her like she's an old woman. She wasn't. When I look back on me at 31, I was still growing. I'm a baby. So I live that to say that your parents are growing up with you.
Yes.
There's an inner child that they had something happen to them that they never healed from.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it manifests in different ways.
Yep.
So the moment you can think about their experiences will allow you to forgive them
Yeah.
In a
for
whole
what
nother
they
way.
did to you.
Absolutely.
I do that with my mom to this day. Like, how can you blame her for her life? I can't do that. I can't blame you for what you only knew at that time in your life.
But were you like that your entire life, or is this something that you've come to?
No, this is something that I came to as an adult.
Exactly.
I've always had a soft spot because she was 16 when she had me. So we were growing up together. So it was a little bit different being the oldest. But looking at my younger siblings, like, you're not gonna keep coming for my mama. She only did what she can do at that time. But it created that just a different type of love, that forgiveness. Like, you were only doing what you knew to do. So that is a very important comment that you stated. It's very important.
I was upset with my mother some, right? Because I felt like my mother had this undying affinity and love for my father that I couldn't understand, because I'm like, he's lying to you. I found out that my father left my mother at the altar, literally, and didn't come to the wedding. So when I'm growing up, all I'm hearing my mother say, you just like that no good MF. So imagine how a child is receiving that. those are some of the worst things she said. And I can't tell you how many times she said it, but it felt like thousands, even though it wasn't, because I kept reliving it. So every time I did something, you just like him. And it was when I got older, if I'm 50, I found this out at about 45, that whatever ill will I held towards my mother, and I am not who I am without my mother. I thank her for everything.
Absolutely.
None of us are going to be perfect, but there were some things that I was like, why would you do that to a child? I understood it much better and could forgive her as well.
And it's been crazy, though, that sometimes, you know, with having absent fathers, and, you know, for whatever reason why they were absent, that a lot of times we resent the mother. And she was the one there doing the best that she could at that point in time. So
I told my mother that.
Yeah.
Now, here's the beauty of the flip side to that journey, right? Empathy. Because I knew what it felt like. My children have never known a time that I wasn't present. But because I hadn't healed, I'm going too hard for my kids.
Yeah.
That once their mother and I divorced after 12 years of marriage, I wouldn't even date when I had them, and I had them all the time because I never wanted them to feel like that. So in that process, I'm neglecting myself because there were some women along the way who would have been great mates for me. But I was like, no woman is going to understand that I love my daughters enough that they're going to come first. Which isn't healthy, though.
It's not.
I think that comes from a place of a single parent. You know what I'm saying? You just feel that way. You don't want this other person to come in and, you know, make your children feel like, or, you know, you don't want to share that love, you know?
But is that coming from the place of a single parent, or is that coming from a child who felt like, I don't want them to feel like how I felt?
True.
Because as single parents, we'll say that, hey, I'm doing this for my kids. But oftentimes we're really doing it
for ourselves.
For
it's
us.
True. Yeah, because I tell me and Tasha are really the example of, it doesn't matter if you come from a 2-parent family home or one parent, you know, a single parent family home. We have the same traumas. You know, we can compare notes like I got daddy issues, and I grew up with my daddy in my house. I got mama issues. I've had to go back and forgive my father and see, like, you left at 18. You was number 5 of 14 kids. What could your mama and your daddy really give you?
Exactly.
Who taught you how to be a father? You know, it's the same for my mom. So it's like, how can I be mad at you? So you have to forgive. So I was just saying that to say is that we both have been through, like, dang, you know, you just forgive, and the empathy in you just love your parents a lot more.
And it make you love them even more.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, let me give you some of this back.
Right.
You know, like, woo, like, you grew up in the South in the 50s. Like, I just know, you know, and you went off into war. Like, I can't even imagine what your thoughts were at 18. And you had a child at 16. So you left a child at 16 and then went off. So it's like, who taught you how to be a man? You know, and you were raising 4 kids in the inner city, trying to make sure that we didn't sell drugs and you wasn't repeating the generational curse of having young children. My mom and my dad had 2 children at 16, you know? So it was just like, their focus was totally different than what they loved me the best way they could. It doesn't mean that it was the best that I needed for the way that I needed to be loved. So, you know, that going back and doing that work has been really helpful for me.
It is.
And I know it's been helpful for Tasha too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it makes you, because it made me just forgive my father without even hearing his whole story. It was just like, I know because if you ain't never seen your kid until she was 18, it's you probably experienced some life. And now we tight, you know, that's my dog. It's different dynamics, but we tight.
I was like, your daddy cool. Like, everybody be like, Daddy Z, what's up? He is a cool dude.
He is. I'm like, he's more like, I mean, I know he's my daddy, but it'd be like big bro, and I'm like, hey, because we just talk about things that he real. So I'm like,
and I'm very much my father's son. So everything about me, from the way my hands, my tonation when I talk, my cadence, my walk, my smell, everything about me is my father. I didn't forgive him until he died, because I didn't find out what I found out until he died. And had I known it earlier, he died in 2016, a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Had I found out what I found out earlier, our relationship would have been much better.
I just can't even imagine doing that work, how commendable that is, that you have to forgive someone in their absence when you can't even go back and say, hey, Dad, like get the answers to the questions that you may think about and want to know while you're unpacking this trauma. So that's just commendable. That's dope.
Thank you.
Yeah. It is. Because a lot of people can't. You know how many men and women walk around bitter at their parents right now that's living, because they won't forgive them, So,
but again, you need new information to challenge your bias, your beliefs. So if I'm constantly reading and the things that I'm reading are expanding me, I'm somebody who's convicted. Like once I know, I have to move on it. So I'm incapable of ignoring new information. So the beauty in reading is that it's allowed me to, I probably have multiple doctorate degrees in a bunch of different areas because of that. I'm constantly looking for answers. So, but most people don't. Look at your screen time at the end of the week, right?
I tell you too.
You averaged 8.4 hours a day on that phone. Now, the question I ask people is, how much of that did you spend investing in yourself? A lot of it is going to be on social media. The majority of it is text.
Yep.
You can buy Audible.
You can.
And you can listen to an audio book. And people are like, I don't like to read. Well, I read the complete works of William Shakespeare, Chaucer, Ibsen, Chekhov, Eliot, Dumas. I read it all, right?
Yeah.
And here's what you do. You spend an hour a day reading, 15 minutes while you're eating, 15 minutes while you're using the bathroom, 15 minutes while you're eating again. Just steal an hour a day. And you'll be surprised at who you become with new information.
Absolutely.
That's real. That's real.
It's that simple.
And when you explore more, it awakens that thirst for more,
Yeah.
So I do agree with that. I got to get more into audiobooks because I'm a visual learner. So just learning how to program my mind to add that, to my life it's going to be a new challenge for me because it's new year, better me.
Yes, it's pretty cool. And you can get a lot of free books on YouTube. A lot of those books, the audio books are, they're on YouTube. You can just listen on the video.
So I'm a reader also, but there's a difference between reading for the information because there's something I'm doing with it. So look at the habits of billionaires. Billionaires not listening to the Breakfast Club.
Not at all.
They're not listening to the Steve Harvey in the morning.
Not at all.
They play audio books. So the audio books are still going to be a source of information, but go get the hard copy so that you can highlight. But that conversation, it should help you grow.
I agree.
Does.
What do you say to people who don't? Because I know I've run across people who's been to therapy or in therapy, who might read, but they just reject growth. They reject healing, and you have presented this information. I mean, they have attended all type of things, but they still choose to stay in that place.
It's so exhausting.
And what do you say? Because I don't want to, it can be exhausting, like you said, and frustrating because you keep coming to me with these repeated, the same stuff.
The same thing. You'd be like, so what do you do? What do you say
to a person?
Because I know you have had to encounter many. I'm just saying.
So two things. One, there's an Ashanti proverb that says, advise and counsel. If they do not listen, let adversity be their teacher. But
thank you.
You can keep talking to them because I already told them.
But here's the second part, right? What has allowed me to interact with people and not leave frustrated is that I have realistic expectation. And expectation, but consider this, expectation is the mother of disappointment. You're only disappointed when you have a different expectation.
That's true.
That's true.
I have a responsibility to share this information with you. At some point, I have to make a decision that you're not ready to receive it. So I hope I'm only planting the seed at that point. I'm going to share it, and I've done my part. But because the healed person now looks at it like, man, that's on you. I'm like, bro, have you considered? You can't come to me to complain about a problem more than once because I want to talk solutions after that. And I cannot deal with your behavior by removing myself from that situation.
I love that.
So that's what I do. I'm going to share this information. I'm going to offer you a different path. but I can't digest what you're doing because it's going to have me frustrated.
It
Set that good boundary.
That's a good boundary to have, because I find that a lot with people with me, because I'm such a good listener.
Oh my goodness. Be like,
When I
Rachel,
say it, I be like, I don't want to be doing no therapy session today. Like, we just talked about this. What you gonna do?
Yep, set boundaries. That's what you're going to do.
For sure.
And you can be, how many times am I going to have this conversation?
I
So
be
when people
like-
talk to me, whether it's about food, nutrition, working out, I be like, bro, I can't have this conversation with you again. Because you're not ready to come back and let's have that conversation later.
That's real.
Don't bring it up right now because I don't want to become upset with you. So but again, set those boundaries so you can have a healthy relationship. If you're not willing to change, don't bring it to me.
I feel that. Not duly noted.
Yeah.
Because it's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, you want to go there?
Yeah, because I mean, what y'all don't know, what he didn't add to his bio is
did
that he went viral. He's the viral superintendent.
He is the viral.
So I'm on social media and I keep getting hit like, I'm like, why is my notifications popping?
Right.
You see Mr. Coleman. They want to hit
I
me
mean, is that
because they know the connection.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, so tell the story. I mean, how did you become viral?
So I'm at homecoming and we at the tailgate. Now here's the crazy part. I had an Instagram account, but it's a ghost account. So I'm following like holistic medicine. I'm following people who work out, mental health stuff, some IG models. I don't even know how anybody would have known I had a page. So I'm saying that to say I've probably been on Instagram since 2014, post nothing, but I can read. So homecoming was, I think, in October. On a Saturday, we're at the tailgate. Monday, I'm at work. And a couple of the bros are like, you blowing up on IG, LOL. And I'm like, huh? And then they send it to me. And it was like, whose daddy is this?
Yes.
Man, what?
I mean,
And they was like, ain't that your daddy? I'm like, not like that, but they was looking for you.
Yeah.
They was checking for him.
what?
It was overwhelming though.
I'm
Like,
sure.
so I didn't get a personal Instagram account for a month, but it's had like 4 million views. So people all over the country are calling me. My daughters are getting inbox from people outside of the country. They like, where your daddy at?
I'm telling you,
Right.
TikTok was on
Fire.
Yeah.
fire.
I mean, when we can say, like, in this area, you broke the internet, you broke the internet. No. Yeah.
you keep talking. I got
Oh,
this.
yeah.
I'm
We
like, I
got
got
like,
this.
no, it's not. He broke the internet, and we was just like, how and why? And I'm just like, people just was in our inbox, and then we start posting. We came to your event. We posted. He threw an amazing event for River Rouge.
Oh, I mean, fire
Right.
event. That
I
was
mean,
oh my goodness, that was an amazing experience.
it was so dope.
It was so
It was
fun.
just love and just
so alive.
beautiful women and beautiful men and beautiful energy. Good
I mean,
food.
everybody
Central High
getting it.
School class of 2000 had their own table.
You know, we was in there like what? People wondering. I got fussed out because of that. They like,
Yeah.
who is that dude?
They don't
doing
know
that?
we on like a picture stand that's like this big, and they like,
Who is that dude on rubbing on? I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, there is somebody like my daddy. What are you talking about?
Yes, but the women,
But the women. Like, y'all always posting them good looking men.
You
I'm like,
would. And so they were on our head about you, like instantly. And it's just like, I remember being in high school. I'm gonna just tell the truth. The teachers, the chicks, the students, just you gotta beat them all off. How do you deal with that in a environment where it's
predominantly women.
Yeah,
I mean,
because it's education. You know, and you're a handsome man, Dad. So I'm just saying, how you telling that? Back them up off of you.
So discipline, right? So you have to deny yourself those things. So for example, I'm able to eat healthy because I don't bring certain things into my house. And if I wanted the effort that it's going to take for me to go get it, I'm not going to do it.
That's a very good idea.
So I stayed off of social
to do
media. I didn't really go out a lot because I'm at work all the time. And so I've tried to create, again, these habits that allow me I've been divorced since 2012. So that's 10 years. I've dated. There are a couple women, 3 in particular, who I owe apologies to. I'm not going to name them. Actually, more than 3, but 3 in particular that I was in committed relationships with, that the outward healed version of me looked like everything was cool. But once I was able to identify those issues with my father, I owe them an apology for being, to reacting to trauma that they weren't responsible for. But outside of that, you know, it's like so I work out 5 days a week. Career-wise, you know, I think that I've had a phenomenal career. I'm a phenomenal person, humbly. So once you create those conditions, it's going to cause you to say that here's what I'm looking for. And if you don't find that, you don't want to compromise.
Truth.
But what I'm looking for isn't what people think I'm looking for, right? So people think like they're constantly trying to hook me up with these super accomplished women, right? And I'm like, I just look like this, man. I'm from Vinewood.
I swear, I said that. I said he's still like she got to be a little.
She got to have a little edge to
it. Yeah, exactly. It has
edge to it.
Definitely.
But have the ability to cold shift.
Yeah, got to.
So that when we walk into a space, she can become somebody different.
Seriously.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it's funny. People are constantly they think they know what I want. But if I can share this, I didn't know what I wanted probably until recently, because we all don't really know ourselves.
We don't. We're forever growing.
Ask a person what are their 5 personal values. They're not going to be able to tell you.
Not confidently.
They're going to make up some stuff. Then you can come back. So we really don't know who we are.
Ego for sure.
Yeah, exactly. We really don't know who we are, and you